Hello and welcome back to our continuing adventures on the Let's Defend platform. Today we are going to tackle underneath the Security Analyst Path, the SOC166 EventID 116, or JavaScript code detected in requested URL. And this requires the time machine because we are going back to February 26th of 2022. 6:56 p.m., or if you're like me and prefer the 24-hour clock, 1856. So we have, looks like a HTTPS request to our web server 1002 in the search folder, and it is trying to generate an alert via JavaScript. See, device action was allowed. Alert trigger reason JavaScript code detected in URL. Well, that definitely would be on the money then. So let's take a look here. This should not have anything to do with email, which, okay, yes, good. So, okay, we're not going to worry with that then. We're going to search from the web server side. We've got a bunch of 112.8542813, which is exactly what we're expecting to see from the alert. Permitted, size, response 200. Okay, so they looked at the, whatever the base URL is, looked at about us. Again, 200. 200 for search with a test string. And they're including image source, no error prompt, which give them a 302. But interestingly enough, was still permitted. Okay. HTTP response codes. That's what I was thinking of earlier. It's like 200s are successes, 400s are not founds. Redirections. Found, previously moved. So we had to redirect somewhere, but it's not necessarily a success. Okay. Let's try it again with a prompt 8. They got a 302. They did for I in self eval I1, so more script, got a 302. SVG script 302. Wait, so where's the one that, did I go too far? Prompt on error, a bunch of 302s. Okay, there we go. That one? That one. Again, 302. So we permitted it, but it got 302. Previously moved temporary. Browse to another URL. Well, I'm going to assume that since they were not 200s like what we had previously observed with the base, the about us. What was the other one? The search for test. I'm gonna say this looks like this failed, but it is a true positive because there is JavaScript code popped in there. Um, was it W3 school JavaScript alert? So something similar to that. So you just get a little pop-up box that should come up and through. If it were to actually work and run through, I believe that is what they are attempting to do, although obviously not with a button. I'm assuming that if they were able to sit there and get that portion to work, they might be able to sit there and run additional commands, but so far everything's 302. So we would probably want to see about verifying that any sort of JavaScript would not run. I mean, it looks like they're kind of doing a unapproved pen test on whatever's there. But let's take a look. These are all for February 2nd, so that doesn't apply because we're dealing with February 22nd. Same thing with the commands where it looks like they're deploying in Docker. Network connections, again, nothing that we're looking for. Process list, and nothing there that really stands out because, well, it would be kind of interesting to know as to like what web service is running on this thing. Because, okay, if it's Microsoft, it's what, IIS, and then you have Apache and Nginx. First thought was WebEx. It's like, no, no, no. Okay, so I think we've got just about everything. I guess the other thing we could take a look at too is we've got the host. So let's go. I don't know why I'm surprised. I closed the web browser in their private windows, so nothing gets saved. URL. It is actually flagging on some things. Unknown. So if we give it the full thing, so um, actually I think I've done this part already. Yes, I have. In an attempt to save a little bit of time, but I have stopped and started the creation of this exercise so many times thus far. So we're just gonna, and then I can just leave these things open for later. So let me grab this and let's okay, so we got a couple of things. So this is China Unicom for the backbone. Oh God, yeah, no. So this again, if we're not doing, or if Let's Defend organization is not doing anything inside of China, then this would be the perfect excuse to say, yeah, we need to sit there and have this closed off. We need to do some GeoIP blocking if we're not doing anything with Russia, Europe, Asia, Africa, South America. If we are strictly US based, then okay, let's start choking some of these sections off. Granted, you can still have a VPN inside of the US to basically pivot from that particular point, or some other attack vector, compromised assets that would be inside the US IP range. But you've effectively made it a little bit more difficult for people to hit you. So, okay, let's go ahead and grab this then. I think we've got just about everything we need. Yes, I know, we won't be able to revert that. That's fine. Let us move forward, and let us create the case and answer the questions. Start the playbook. Understand why the alert was triggered. Examine the rule name. So in this particular case, the exact rule name was JavaScript code detected in requested URL. Well, I think we've shown that on a couple of different examples. There's been a couple of sections there that have used the script tag inside that search function. Which two devices? So this is the IP address for China backbone coming into web server 1002. Yes, or the 112.85.42.13 to the 172.16.17.17. And I think it was no, okay, so and then basically it looks like it's used a kind of different range of ports. So all within the upper 48,000 range and all 443. So they're all TLS protected. Well, I guess it could be SSL protected too. I guess it really just depends as to what cipher suites the server and whatever this thing is supported. So yes, I think we understand why it was triggered. Collect data, ownership of the IP addresses and devices. China. Web reputation. Questionable or poor at best. Although we're not seeing any sort of actual blocking. But it is tagged for scanners attacks, blah, 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 blah. And of course, IBM being absolutely no help. Okay, I can't say that. It at least is listed SSH brute force honeypot live. And these go at least back to April this year. So, okay. Maybe I'm just a little bit too harsh on them. Ah. And then we've got the detections, at least from VirusTotal, for what? 3 vendors as marking it malicious malware, and then 1 that says it's suspicious. Okay, traffic is company. No, the traffic is not coming from the company network. It is coming into the company network. Examine. So, I mean, obviously, specifically the one that they are giving us that is the problem is the GET that was permitted. I guess the other aspect would be, too, is the fact that there's a 0 HTTP response size. So it did not work. Is it malicious? And of course, this comes down to the whole aspect. It by itself? And we're just going to say yes, because one, it's not authorized, 2, they are attempting to exploit. So yeah, it's malicious traffic. It's not command injection. Cross-site scripting. Check if it was a planned test. There was no email that was sent out. The only one was for June. And I think that had something to do with exercise, or 171, or whatever it was, 172, for the Fiona 0 day for MS Office and whatnot. Planned test. It is not planned. What is the direction? Internet to company network. Check whether or not it was successful. Zero response size. The fact that it was 302, I'm going to say that it was not. Artifacts. Hooray. And effectively what we have is the IP address, and that is it. because we don't have an MD5. We don't have, I mean, I guess theoretically we could grab all the URLs that it's attempting to go through. That would include samples of the tests, but I think this is far enough. Well, they didn't technically. So, in terms of the exercise, the direct answer would be no, because the attack did not succeed. It's not internal network to outside or inside to inside. This is outside in. But depending as to what the escalation process would be for your particular organization, you might have to get T2 involved for them to double check everything else as it sits. And then maybe the two of you would get everything all lined up, and then you would go take it to the manager or some other team to get something else put into place to better protect the system. So web application firewall that would sit there and strip that stuff out. Maybe adding it to a list for pen testers so they can go through and make sure that everything's all buttoned up tight for that system. Or go back to the earlier example, the GeoIP block lists to basically just start knocking out entire countries. Because obviously, if China wasn't allowed to connect to that system, then okay, granted, yes, they could have another compromised asset somewhere else, or VPN, or Tor, or whatever the case would be, but they're not going to be able to just, from a straight Chinese connection, connect to, or at least attempt. So in this particular case, it says I'm not aware of what the escalation point would be. Get the matters resolved. And the answer for this for getting tier 2 escalation is going to be no. XSS attempted against web server 1002. Let's do attempted and failed. From a China backbone IP address. Finish playbook. And we'll see as to how we do on that. We got the note. And we're going to finish this off. Close the alert. It is a true positive. We're just going to copy and paste what we had in there before. And we're going to close the alert and see what we get. All your answers are correct. God, I love you. Seeing that. Okay, so that was this one here, 166. Bam, bam, bam. No success, or no write-up, or official write-up dumped in there. Oh, we got community write-up stuff. Oh, well, this actually looks good. XSS. So what are they put it in as the actual IP address, which we did see some of that. Abuse. We see the command history. So they confirm nothing weird happening there. And then basically just putting the rest of the stuff together. And everything that they attempted was correctly redirected, which we observed with the 302 HTTP status response codes. Okay, I wasn't aware that this... Huh. I'm glad to see people doing write-ups. But so there we go. That has been a successful SOC166 JavaScript code detected and requested URL alert, EventID 116 for February 26, 2022, 1856. local time. And with all that being said, I will see everyone in the next video.